I don't know why I woke up with the Munsters theme on my mind. Okay, we ready, Pat? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this down to you. Pull it to you so you don't have to always try to move to it. Okay. You can put those headphones on if you'd like. You don't need to, but it helps because it just makes everything a little more coherent.
Gotcha.
In your head. I'm going to put these on here.
Yeah,
and then,
I'm still wearing headphones at work all the time.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Meeting after meeting after meeting.
So let me see here.
Oh!
Okay. Are we set? It looks like we're set. Okay, very good. Here we go.
You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Addressing Gettysburg. And today we're taking a little bit of a detour from talking about the battle or the war or the armies or anything related to the armies. We're going to talk about something that millions of visitors have probably recognized in some way or another in their visits here. And this has more to do with the beauty of Gettysburg National Military Park and the life found within it, the wildlife. More specifically, we're talking birds, insects, plants, things like that. There's a book called Gettysburg, The Nature of a Battlefield by Patricia Rich. And this is it here. It's available on Amazon. It'll be available on addressinggettysburg.com, which is us. Where else? Gettysburg Publishing, right?
Correct.
Several other places, but those are probably the easiest and best places for you to go and find them. Pat and Rich, thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We've been talking about this for a long time. We finally got to do it.
Yep.
You've been, how long have you been doing this, taking pictures of?
Well, taking pictures of the battlefield, I guess as long as I've been coming here since 1986. But most recently, the nature has kind of like taken the forefront since about, I would say about 2012.
Okay.
Standing at the back of various ranger walks and licensed battlefield guide tours and such, started to notice, the birds sitting on the fence or in the trees and some of the flowers along the trails and things like that. And just kind of like grew from there.
Now, is it, so you would be on these tours with Ken?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So Ken Rich is Pat's husband, in case you couldn't figure it out from the last name. And so was it that you were not as interested in what was going on the tour and you kind of just started wandering with your eye, or did you just...
Well, since Ken got like really deep into it, starting about 2008, studying for licensed battlefield guide exam, we were going on more and more tours, and sometimes they were repetitive and things like that. So I have this ability to multitask. So I would be listening to the tour, but still taking pictures. It all started really with photographs of the battlefield itself, the buildings, the terrain features, and things like that. And then the nature just kind of evolved from that, because how many pictures of the Klingel House can you take?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
There's this beautiful big red-tailed hawk sitting on a fence eating a mouse, and you go, ooh, that's kind of cool. So
that's a thing that's kind of interesting, because it wasn't until I met you and you told me that you do this that I even considered the wildlife here. And then all of a sudden I started noticing things like foxes and hawks eating mice and, like right. Wildlife doing its thing. And yet we're all walking around and driving around and they're still living amongst us and, not running and hiding like they would if you were to encounter them in the woods, probably.
Well, that's kind of the interesting thing here is that while it's called the Gettysburg National Military Park and it's used very often for military studies,
mm-hmm.
It is a park.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of preserving the terrain features and such for battlefield study, we've also preserved the wildlife here. We've created an ecosystem where there's a proliferation of bird species and a very wide range of wildflowers that might not be found in other places because of progress, so to speak.
The thing that has come to my attention in recent months that I find interesting is the beaver dam down in the Valley of Death, and I take it that there's probably some federal rule or law that disallows the Park Service from removing that, so it doesn't flood down there. Or
Well, so here's the thing: you might as well preface that with the controversial beaver dam.
Okay.
Because there are two schools of thought on it. One, they should get rid of them because they're ruining the field for study militarily, because they weren't there at the time of the battle. But you also have those people who are very much into the nature aspect of things, where they have now created a whole new ecosystem down there at the base of Little Round Top.
Right.
And now you're seeing bird species you might not have seen before. We're seeing more of the other natural wildlife, the foxes, the most recently a family of muskrats and things like that that are using what the beavers have created to make their own homes.
Okay.
And to find
Come a
their
little closer
own,
to the mic.
and to find their own food sources. Because obviously the fox is going to want to eat the beaver. But the park did, at the very beginning of the beavers setting up home, try to relocate them. And they just came back.
So they really wanted this real estate.
Yeah, they really wanted it. So they started with one dam. Now there are at least 3 small dams and a full-on beaver lodge down there. So now they've created this, like, basically a pond down at the base of Little Round Top.
Yeah.
Now, to my thought, there's not a whole lot of tours and study that goes on down there at the base of Little Round Top.
Right.
Most of the tours and
Study
happens from the top of Little Round Top,
right.
or over at Devil's Den looking towards Little Round Top. The only people that might go down into that area are those who are really into the trolley trail that went through that area. Because there are a couple of tipped-in markers down there, and then there's the Mozart Regiment Monument down there. But for the most part, it's not an area that's very traveled by people. It's always been a little swampy. Well, now it's very swampy.
It's very swampy, and when was this? Was it in the fall? We had a really, really heavy rains, and that whole area flooded there.
Yeah.
I know it floods often. It's not the first time, but I wonder if the flooding would have been smaller if that dam wasn't there.
That's entirely possible, but the water tends to go over the dam and continue on its way.
But the dam still slows it.
Yeah, the dam definitely slows it.
Yeah.
But again, I've been there where that whole valley has been flooded just from the rain or a melting snow.
Yeah.
And such.
So yeah, I guess it doesn't really make that big of a difference. And then, so beavers, do they, like, now that they've built that there, are generation after generation of beavers going to live there? Or do they eventually vacate places and then we can get rid of them?
You'll have some that will continue to live there, but youngsters will tend to move off and find their own territory.
Okay.
There are at least 2 other places in the park where there are beavers, which is a recent thing within the last 2 or 3 years. So I suspect that beaver family has already started to branch out. It's one of those things where we've told the park where they are, but not the general public.
Okay.
So.
What you're saying? You've told the park where the
other dams are.
Other dams are that have branched out off of those big ones. So gotcha. Okay.
And those other 2 are in areas that are way out of where people travel, so they don't impact visitor.
So only like someone who's like super into finding nature in the park is going to find them.
Right.
It's not.
Exactly.
It's off the beaten path.
Yeah.
What were you prior to doing pictures of nature on the park? Were you always into nature, into animals and things, or is this something that you've developed since?
Well, I had my backyard bird feeders and such, and would take pictures of them. Go down to the local state park or whatever, and take pictures of because I live near the water, generally waterfowl sort of thing.
Sure.
the nature in the park thing really got serious about it when I was approached by Gettysburg Publishing about providing photos for a book that they were thinking about doing. And they had somebody lined up to do the writing and such, and I was just going to be providing the photos. Well, when that person backed out of the project, excuse me, I ended up having to identify my photos, writing the little blurbs about them for the pages.
Okay.
And then we had a biology major at Penn State who fact-checked me. I had a friend proofread it, and because I'm a graphic designer by nature and by actual vocation,
Okay.
I ended up laying out the book, designing it and such. So the project is entirely mine now.
Right, and you've got some beautiful photos in here of bird. Like you must have. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you can see these folks, right? Yeah. I mean, look at the colors on these birds. I have never noticed birds this brightly colored here, but I also don't go looking for them. I mean, but you've got to have the patience of a monk to wait for nature to like come within proximity of your lens where you could like get a good shot without scaring them off, you know?
It's actually kind of the reverse in my
Really?
instance. I mean, you see a lot of photographers standing out there with their tripods and their big giant Canon lenses and things like that. I have a PowerShot Canon.
Yeah, show the camera here. This is a camera you're on.
So here's my little camera. I can carry it with me everywhere. It's very lightweight.
Those are like you can get those anywhere, right?
can get these anywhere.
Walmart, Target, a place like that, right?
Exactly. Mine I got as a package on Amazon. It came with a couple of little filters and extra batteries, that sort of thing.
That's like the first-time mom starter camera. Everybody that has a new baby, they get that camera because they think they're going to get great pictures, and then they get disappointed because they don't take it off of auto and they never get great pictures.
Right, exactly. Well, and that's the thing. It's like this camera has a lot of auto settings, but it also allows you to work manually with it. But one of the things I found is that with nature, it doesn't sit still for you. So you have to have something that's pretty quick.
Right.
Something that's very versatile, lightweight, that you can just turn around and do whatever with. It's lightweight, so when I'm traveling around on the battlefield, I'm not carrying a big giant backpack with a bunch of lenses and things in it, which you don't have time to swap out for when you're taking pictures.
And it kills your back. I did it for years.
It does. And so for me, it's like I carry this. If I need something in the way of a tripod, I find a fence or a rock or a tree. And most of my photos have been taken as I'm like driving through the park or walking through the park and I see it. I'm not sitting around waiting for something to come to me.
Right, okay.
It's like I'll be driving along and all of a sudden I'll pull the car over and kind of like, what are you doing? And I'm like, it's like, there's a bird, you know.
But so. And so that doesn't scare them off most times? Is like
most of the wildlife, I mean, there are some species, some animals that will run into the brush when you stop. But for the most part, they're used to vehicles driving by all the time. They're used to joggers. They're used to people running through, you know, people with dogs and things like that. So they have a tendency to just be watchful. Yeah. And if you get too close, then they'll run off.
Have you ever gone to Assateague Island or Chincoteague?
Yeah.
We used to camp at Assateague Island, and what was amazing was one morning I woke up before everybody else, because if I'm not in my bed, I can't have a good night's sleep. So the minute I saw a light outside, I said, that's it, I'm up, you know. And I'm out restoking the fire so I can make some coffee. And I'm sitting there reading, beautiful morning, sun's barely coming up over the horizon yet. And I look over, and there's a deer, but 30 feet away from me. So there was some food, there was marshmallows left over from the night before, and I put it out in my hand just to lure him and stuff, and God, he came right over to me and ate the thing out of my hand. He later died because of it, but yeah, oops.
Yeah, park rangers will smack your hand for that. Yes, do not feed the wildlife.
I didn't realize that the marshmallows make their spleens explode. A lot of people
I
didn't
have
know that.
I have a friend who had a raccoon that lived in her shed, and she fed it marshmallows.
Yeah,
So.
and he lived.
Yeah.
Yeah, the deer didn't die, or maybe he did, but he didn't die in front of me if
Right.
he did. But he ate and let me actually like scratch his nose. And what was amazing was the amount of engorged ticks behind his ears.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It looked like he had like warts all over the place. It was
Right.
disgusting.
Which is why playing with deer is not encouraged.
Yeah. Lesson learned.
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess that makes sense, though, that they're used to humans being around and nobody seems to bother them. Because it is an interesting balance of, modern American tourism, which is basically,
Right.
A bunch of gavons, walking around going, hey, look at this over here. Get a picture of me on this monument,
Right.
And animals kind of, they almost seem oblivious to us
Right.
when you see them, right? Like they're just doing their own thing.
Yeah.
It's like they know they're safe.
Well, and that's one of those special encounters I had for like two seasons in a row with a very gorgeous red-tailed hawk out in Excelsior Field. He would let me get within 30 feet of him. He would then jump down off the fence, grab a vole, come up, proceed to eat right in front of me, paying no attention to me. And at one point, I actually named him El Cid. Many of my photographer friends out there listening will know exactly who I'm talking about because they then joined in on the largesse of Sid
Okay.
for getting absolutely gorgeous photos. And it's like one of those things where sometimes you get an animal that will be that way with you. Same thing with, there was a family of foxes at the Bushman farm. And I walked down one day and one of the youngsters was laying outside just catching some sun and paid no attention to me taking pictures of him. I mean, he was so cute, and it's like at any moment his mom could have come out and just like, ah!
Right,
But,
right. Well, they're
get
like
lucky sometimes.
they're like the human children. They're
Yeah.
just so used to being photographed that they don't care anymore.
right. It's like, ooh, look at me.
Yeah. There's one picture in here. I'm looking at the black-capped chickadee. When I was in Catholic school, the nun who was the principal called us all her little chickadees, and I never knew what a chickadee looked like until now. This is a chickadee, cute little guy,
Yep.
right? With that little that weird little face there. I like that. I like the chickadee. And the other thing that's cool about this book is that it's there's such a variety. Like, look at this one, indigo bunting. It's like he got in a fight with a painter and lost, but the painter created some pretty nice art.
Well, and there's a ruby-throated hummingbird in there that was one of those things. I was standing down by the bridge from over Plum Run that used to go to the old outhouse, the bathrooms down there at below Devil's Den, and there was this buzzing next to my ear, and I was like, "What the heck is it?" I thought it was a bee or something, and I turned and look, and there's this hummingbird like right next to my head.
Really?
And then it went and it flew and landed on a branch, and it sat there for like 10 minutes
He wanted you to take a
and
picture.
let me take pictures.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like so unusual. But
Yeah.
it was like, bzzz, and I was like, what the heck?
Like, how close was it to your head?
He was literally like right next to my ear.
No kidding.
It was like so bizarre.
It's like he was calling you to take a
Yeah,
picture
it's
of
like,
him.
hey, hello,
What a vain,
here I am.
what
I
a
know.
vain
I
hummingbird.
know, really. But
Probably thinks this show is about him.
yeah, I know.
Okay, so besides birds, now you see, we got okay, you have it broken up in a couple different. So you have birds perching,
Yes.
and then what's the other bird?
Well, we have
Yellow-bellied
your
sapsucker.
songbirds, your woodpeckers, your raptors.
And there are, let's see, you've got the downy woodpecker, which
Oh, there are a lot of woodpeckers
looks
here
like
in the park.
this. And
The
then,
only one that is not in there is the pileated woodpecker. That is my nemesis bird.
Why? Because you can't get a shot of him?
Yeah, because every time I have seen one here in the park, I have been without camera or not fast enough.
Okay. So this is, what is this? The red-bellied woodpecker. Is this what Woody Woodpecker is based off of with
No,
the red hair?
the pileated woodpecker is the one that is Woody
Is Woody,
Woodpecker. He's got
okay.
that big red head with a point on the back.
Yes.
And, all
yeah.
that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one, yeah.
All right, so
I'm
those are
still fighting for that one.
that's in the tree clinging section,
Yeah.
Oh, and then we got the ravens and the crows and the vultures.
Yes.
Look at that. The ravens have got a pretty sleek look to them, though. I like the raven, but the vultures are nasty looking.
Well, I kind of like the black vultures. I think they're very fascinating.
Yeah.
Their whole sociability and things like that, as opposed to the turkey vultures, which, frankly, with that red head is just kind of creepy looking.
Yeah.
But
Now, this one here, the American kestrel, was this taken on the 32nd Mass Monument? Is that what that is?
it's yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew it. Where are we here? It's hard to do this without Eric. Okay,
Yeah,
there.
kestrels are another one that are really hard to photograph because they're so quick.
Yeah.
But they're also, I won't say unique because there's another bird here that does the same thing. And they have this ability to like hover in the air until they see what their prey, where their prey is.
Right.
And then they just literally fall on
Nosedive.
top of them.
Yeah.
And for short periods of time here, not all year, well, all year round off the battlefield, but particularly at this time of year,
Right.
the northern harriers come and visit. And they are right now they're very active, which is why there are a lot of photographers over there in Excelsior Field off and on,
Right.
because they're trying to get pictures of the northern harriers and the short-eared owls, which seem to visit at the same time.
It's interesting because we who live here prepare for spring when the northern harriets and their short-haired husbands Al come down to Gettysburg.
There you go.
So you also so we've got birds, we've got flowers.
Yes.
These are wildflowers mostly, right? I'm assuming. Yeah, I mean
Yes,
they're
predominantly,
all
yeah.
And again, like I notice walking through a field of flowers that there's a field of flowers there.
Right.
I never go and look at them closer than the full view of the field of flowers, you know. But now look at like this one here. I'm looking at the white avens. What a cool looking flower that is. People who are just listening to this is why you need to become a $25 patron, because you can see what we're looking at. But I don't want to just give you nothing. But it's this cool flower. It's got 5 white petals and 5. I guess these would be like the bud leaves, I guess, you know,
There you
yeah.
go.
But they make a cool design, like a cool
Yeah.
star shape and everything like that. So
That was one of those things that when I first started noticing the wildflowers,
Yeah.
In like patches here and there, that there's a huge variety here in the park.
there
And
really
it's like
are.
at any given time, you can go to a particular part of the battlefield and find something. I even put together at one point a scavenger hunt. It's like, I said, I was out this weekend, I photographed these 10 flowers,
Find them.
find them, post a picture, and then I did a drawing for one of my books for the people who had participated in the fun little activity there.
I like how also in this book you have, like, so for example, I'm looking at the horse nettle on page 84, if you have the book and want to read along. It says, this deep-rooted perennial, considered a weed by some, grows in fields, waste places, and cultivated sites. Deep hoeing is required to get rid of horse nettle, as it has a deep, hardy root system. Like, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Because if I ever want to get rid of some horse nettle, I know I got to get down there deep. I can't just rip it out of the ground.
It's also very prickly, and one of the reasons why you should not wear sandals or flip-flops while traversing the field.
On our Get Out of the Car tours. This is why I say this.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, like, people made fun of me because I always used to say, you know, wear good shoes, don't wear flip-flops or sandals. And it was because, like, I know that there's things out there. There's grass out there that can, if you run through it enough, it's going to cut your feet
Right.
up. So I'm just trying to be nice, people.
Not to
Jeez.
mention the slinky little reptiles that live out there too.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to think of. Now, do you have any reptiles in here?
Not in this book.
Okay.
So we started, because it is the only full-color book in the Gettysburg Publishing Library,
Oh, that must have been.
we had to limit the number of pages
Uh-huh.
because obviously it's very expensive to print full color.
Right.
So we decided what we would do is we would do the first book, and then somewhere along the line, if this went very well, we would do a second book, which would cover trees, reptiles, amphibians, and the furry critters. So it's still a work in progress because I have a full-time job that takes a lot of my time. But I have the photos. It's just a matter of getting everything together and
it's
doing the work.
It's tough doing stuff like this and having a full-time job. Do you get frustrated sometimes because you would rather just be doing this, but you have to pay the bills?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Story of my life.
You know, now that Ken is retired and so we don't have his full-time income, we just have his tour income in addition to my income. It's a little tougher.
Yeah.
I can't just like take a big chunk of time and go do something that I really want to do as opposed to what I have to do.
Right.
But, yeah.
I know. I hate that. And for somebody who has an artistic mind, that is torture.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really torture because every fiber of your body is vibrating to do whatever your creative outlet is,
Right.
but you've got to pay the rent and you're scheduled to work 8 to 5 or whatever, and you got to do that because you need that money. And
Right.
so it can lead to depression, you know.
Luckily, I haven't gotten to that point.
Good.
Because I do have the ability to spend my weekends. I mean, that is the nice thing about the job that I have is that they're very positive about work-life balance.
Yeah.
So your weekends are your weekends.
Oh, good.
And they do provide some good time off during the course of the year. So
What do you do for your regular job?
I am a pre-press production manager, but basically it's a graphic designer for a marketing department at Erickson Senior Living.
Okay.
We manage continuing care retirement communities, so we have to create all those direct mail and flyers and other stuff that inundate elderly people's mailboxes.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I've been starting to get AARP stuff. I'm only 43. What is that normal that they do that?
I think that's like something that they started a couple of years ago when they decided that some of the things that they offer can start a little bit earlier and kind of like really pull you into the fold when you get to that 50-year
So maybe I should look into
age
it.
range. There are some really good discounts there, including discounts for travel and hotels and restaurants and stuff like that. So, yeah.
It's just the thought of going up to somebody and to pay for something and then going, I have my AARP discount card, you know, like.
Well,
I'm not ready yet.
If you watch their commercials, you'll see that they are definitely gearing towards a younger demographic. So
they're trying to expand their clientele, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so then, do you ever find you get into kind of turf wars with another photographer who's out in the same area or comes into the same area, or are there a lot of you guys out there?
There are several people who are regular photographers on the battlefield. They do it like I do for the fun of it. It's not a full-time job for them. There are some who go out there, take photos, and are able to sell their artwork and do so. There's some very good photographers out there, but most of them would claim to be amateurs or hobbyists as opposed to a professional photographer. Right. We're not the ones who are going to be doing weddings or, professional photo shoots and things like that.
You wouldn't hire yourself out for someone who's looking for like a certain...
And it's like several times I've been approached, would you be willing to do? And I'm like, I'm at the point where I know that I'm good, but I don't feel comfortable being the person who is going to document something so important in someone else's life.
Yes.
I'm more than happy to tag along and take like the little candid shots and things, but I'm not going to be the primary photographer.
Yeah,
it's not what I do.
When I did photography, I was very reluctant to accept a wedding photography gig. I would do wedding videos more because, a bride and groom, well, the bride is looking for a picture to hang on the wall.
Right.
And all the pictures that were wall hangable that I ever took were accidentally so.
Right.
It was just all the elements lined up for me. It wasn't much of a skill. There was a little skill, but mostly it was just the perfect opportunity or whatever.
Right.
So I didn't feel comfortable doing that. But video, I had no problem because like the reality is people watch their wedding video maybe for like a month because they got to show all their goofy friends and relatives that weren't there. And then they never watch it again. So
or they bring it out on the 20th anniversary.
Yeah, or something like that. And by that point, they can't ask for their money back. So the wedding photography is pretty nerve-wracking. And actually, all the wedding photographers, most of the wedding photographers, not all, that I met were kind of like douches. Do you know what I mean? They have a bit of a...
They have a set schedule. They have a set type of photo that they want to set up, and that's their focus.
Yeah.
And like I said, I feel more comfortable kind of following behind or going in a different direction to catch the candid shots, the things that the photographer misses that are really kind of more interesting than those posed photos that they do.
Yeah. That's what I always liked.
Yeah.
When I would do photography, I would only do it as a second because the second is the one who runs around to get the candids and get the art shots and all that stuff.
Right.
And I was like, fine. I don't want to deal with posing people. I don't want to deal with any of that crap, And then once in a while you get the bride that insists on coming over and looking at the camera in the viewfinder right then and there.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, no, can we do it again? I look too fat or I look too this or I look too that. It's just like...
Honey, we'll take care of it in post-processing.
Yeah, exactly. And you won't even remember by tomorrow that you didn't like this picture,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of those things. Now I've because we're into cold weather and I don't do as much running around the battlefield as I normally do. My focus is taking photographs of the adoptable kitties at Forever Love Rescue because you can get they're just so cute.
Of course, the babies, right? The little kittens, or is it just cats? Are you saying in general?
Kittens, cats. Some of the seniors have some of the most interesting faces. And sometimes it's just the way they're posing. They're laying in a little bed in the window with the sun shining on them, and it's like, oh, look, perfect shot. It's like, or look, kitty yawning. But so that's kind of where I'm at right now, at least for the winter time. I'm not a cold weather person, so you will see me driving through the battlefield, but not really walking through the battlefield at this time of year.
just kind of thumbing through most of these pictures, except for a couple that I'm seeing, seem to be done in summer or spring or fall. But I see a lot of green, very few bare branches, although there's a few.
Yeah, not a whole lot of wildflowers in the wintertime.
But I like this. Wait, let me see if I can find it here. I just went past it. Where the hell is it? There's a picture of was it one of the vultures? Of course, now I'm not going to be able to find it. It was like three. It was like 3 pages behind where here. I like how this is the turkey vulture, nasty looking dude, and but I like how he's perched on a dead branch.
Tree, yes.
Yes, like it's like he, how perfect could that be?
Well, and that's one of those things. One of my favorite pictures of the black vultures. I have 4 vultures on this dead tree just down below Little Round Top, and it's like it was just so perfect because they were like, it was so obvious that it was a dead tree because there was black vultures all over it.
Yeah. It's like they only choose those. Do they? Maybe they do.
Well,
I don't know.
They'll pretty much perch wherever they need to perch, but it's also one of those things. One of the few birds that you do see in the wintertime are the dark-eyed juncos, also known as snowbirds, because they have a tendency to migrate to this area at this time of year. It's kind of fun to watch them, too, because the way they get the seeds off the plants is they will literally just kind of like dive and jump on it, knock it to the ground, get their seeds, and then it goes flopping back up. It's really kind of cute to watch.
This is an interesting flower here, the columbine. And it says it's found in meadows and woodlands. They are used as a food by some butterflies and moth caterpillars. The plants and seeds are highly poisonous and can cause severe gastroenteritis and heart palpitations. So if you see this flower, ladies and gentlemen, hold on, let me get it here.
Don't eat it.
Don't eat it. It looks delicious, but you do not want to eat this flower.
It's funny.
It looks like the flower they garnish some dishes with. But it can't
no,
be.
that would be violets.
Oh, those are
Violets are
violets.
generally
Okay.
the food ones.
Okay. And those are edible.
Well, and it's funny because a couple of times I've been on ranger tours, and you'll have like some Boy Scouts or something in the back, and they'll see like some berries on a tree, and they'll say, "Hey, are those edible?"
Oh.
You know. And my general rule is, unless you are absolutely positively starving to death and there is nothing else to eat, maybe you can eat them.
Yeah, right. Maybe.
Maybe.
Gonna feel a little bad. This is interesting. Bittersweet nightshade. Found in thickets and clearings, this vine is quite distinctive. The leaves and fruit contain the poisonous alkaloid solanine. Its toxin is not fatal, but the berries are attractive to children and can cause poisoning if eaten in large quantities. Long ago, the plant was used in England to counteract witchcraft. Yeah, because you always hear about nightshade and all those old things. But would that be used, so they would, get a high enough concentration to kill somebody with it? Or what would they, if it doesn't kill you?
Honestly, not being a witch or a wizard, I don't know how they would use it other than in spells. But we have.
I like that you had to put that caveat in there. I'm not a witch.
Not a witch. I have Wiccan friends, so I, just.
Well, maybe
put
they
it
can
out
tell
there.
you.
Yeah, maybe they can tell me. But there are several plants in here that are kind of interesting in that they are poisonous in their raw state, but once cooked, or if they reach a certain stage of ripening, are no longer poisonous.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of interesting. But
Interesting.
again,
yes.
you have to be really good at knowing what plants you're looking at
Right.
and what those stages are.
Yeah. How do you know what you're looking at?
But me?
Yeah. When you go and take a picture, do you know? I mean,
Sometimes I know what I'm taking a picture of. Sometimes I'll take the picture and then go find it.
that's got to be hard.
It was very hard for this book.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know a lot of those plants.
Right. So you had to go and find
I
what
was
they
like,
were. How did you do
pretty
that?
Plant. There are a number of resources, plant identification apps online, and one was a wildflower identification website that was put together by naturalists.
Okay.
So you say, okay, it's got 5 petals, it's yellow, and has spiky leaves. And it would pop up 3 or 4 options. And you go, oh, yeah, it's that one.
Okay.
So that was very helpful. A lot of those resources I did list in the back of the book, so that if anyone else was interested in finding out more about those plants or whatever, because I really had to keep the descriptions very short.
Right.
Anytime that I could tie them to the battle or the Civil War itself, I did. One of the plants that's in there is chicory. Chicory is real cute little blue flower that you can see all over the field. There's actually a white version of it too. And the soldiers would steep that in hot water and get that flavor when they didn't have actual coffee.
Right.
So
is that any good? Have you ever?
I'm not a coffee drinker.
Oh.
So.
Are you a chicory drinker?
No. Drink tea. So there are some plants that I will
Are there plants in this book that are found on the battlefield that are teable?
Probably.
But we don't know for sure. This one, this is an interesting one here, and I don't bring this up to be lurid. I don't know if lurid's the word I'm looking for. Obscene. I'm not looking to be obscene. But so this one here is the great lobelia.
Lobelia.
And the what is this, Latin? Is it Latin or Greek? Yeah, it's Latin. Lobelia syphilitica. Inhabits rich lowland woods, meadows, and swamps. This blue counterpart to the cardinal flower is most desirable for wildlife gardens. The species name is based on the fact that it was a supposed cure for syphilis. The roots contain alkaloids, which can cause vomiting. Yummy.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, a number of the plants that are in there are traced back to cures and such from the Native Americans.
Okay.
I will specify those instances, but there's several in there. There's a couple that were treatments for dysentery and treatments for typhoid, and I mean just any manner of things. They would grind them up and make a poultice for snake bites. So there's like all kinds of really cool stuff in there.
I wonder if any of that stuff actually worked.
Well,
You know what I mean? Like I wonder with all those natural remedies and things that the Indians used or that they used before medicine became what it is today. I wonder if they actually worked or if they just kind of like made you feel so sick from whatever you're ingesting that you didn't pay attention to the original problem, and then eventually the original problem just cleared itself up on its own, and it just seemed like it worked.
We have several drugs right now that doctors prescribe that don't do anything to cure a situation.
Mm-hmm.
They just hide the symptoms or make you, for instance, think about the symptoms differently.
Mm.
So one that comes to mind when I was having some major back issues, the doctor prescribed tramadol.
Okay.
Oh, tramadol doesn't make the pain go away. It just makes you not care about the pain.
Okay.
It's
Makes
like,
you apathetic.
Lay down on the couch and it's like, ow, that really hurts, but I'm not
Okay.
getting up.
So you could still feel the
You
pain,
can still feel the pain.
but you don't care.
You don't care.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I just I just had a had to wear one of those Holter monitors a couple of months ago, and so the results came in and they said, "Yep, you're dying." So they gave me this pill, and it's basically I have an irregular heartbeat,
Mm-hmm.
and this pill they give me should regulate the heartbeat, and I'm like, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah," and I go, "That's amazing to me that you could
Right.
find a chemical mixture that can make an irregular heartbeat go to what it's supposed to be." Like that blows my mind.
Right.
I was telling this to my dad, and he goes, "Well, yeah, it blows my mind that penicillin cures all these viruses." I'm like, "Yeah, maybe I just take that for granted. It doesn't blow my mind as much as
Right.
this. Like this is like, the penicillin is killing a bacteria or a virus or whatever. No, not a virus, a bacteria. But this chemical compound is making my heart beat normally. Like that's
Right.
astounding to me."
Yeah.
But then you look at like just 150 something years ago, like they would, if you had a little VD, they would shoot mercury up your pee hole, and mercury kills you.
Right.
how? So my question is always like, and this isn't something that I'm sure that you can answer because this isn't your field, but just rhetorically, it's just like, how long did they do all these things before they realized they were doing more harm than good?
Right.
It seems like a long time. So then my question is, how stupid were people? But then I know better than to say that.
Right. Well, I mean, at one point in time, if you had certain symptoms, they would put you in a sanitarium.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even try to figure out what was wrong with you.
Right. They would just put, because
It's
who wants
like,
to
okay,
deal?
Oh, they're crazy. Just put them away.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Which I think we should kind of get back to a hybrid of how we treat crazy now and that.
Yeah.
Like I don't think closing the asylums was a good idea because they're roaming free now and it's not good. But that's not the point of this conversation. So the book that the next book, if there's
Right.
going to be a next book,
Right.
what are you going to have in that?
We're going to have trees. We've been
Okay.
asked to do trees.
Trees is a good one.
Although to me, trees,
Yeah.
there's not
Kinda
a whole
with
lot
ya.
of different trees here.
Not really.
At least not that I'm aware of yet. I'm sure there will be.
Well, see, that's the thing.
So
the
one of-
devil's in the details.
Right, exactly.
You got to get into those woods.
There was one particular tree that used to grow here quite predominantly, and that's the chestnut tree. And it was pretty much wiped out by disease and pests. And now they're experimenting with some hybrid varieties of chestnuts that are a little more hardy and more pest resistant to see if they could reintroduce those trees.
Interesting. Is the chestnut the one that leaves those big? No, those are walnuts.
You've
Right.
got the ones, the little green balls that
Dude, those things.
they're horrible.
I was.
They will
I was.
kill your ankles like
yeah,
crazy.
they will kill you. I was sitting at Farnsworth House out in the beer garden one day, And yeah, it like breezed by my shoulder by like 3 inches. Had I been moved over a little bit or whatever, it would have clobbered me right on the head. And those things, when they hit the ceiling of that little bar they have outside, or the roof, I mean, big loud bang.
Yeah.
And everybody, when it hits there, everybody just stops talking. Like they think it's a gunshot.
I have 2 dents in the roof of my car from walnuts falling on my car.
Yeah.
The squirrels around my house, I've not noticed them here, except maybe once or twice, I think. Squirrels have this tendency to like take the walnuts and put them out in the alleyway so that your car runs over them so they don't have as much work to get to the nuts. And one of the things I've seen over the past year, I don't know if it's a COVID thing, but is people putting buckets of walnuts out on the street saying free walnuts. I'm like, okay,
That's
I have
clever.
plenty in my yard. I don't need any more. Thank you.
Now, are these the same kind of walnuts that we cook and eat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's black walnuts.
Yeah.
There's also hickory and what's the other one? There's another one that has nuts. It's a pretty prevalent one in the woods here. Obviously, your acorns from the oak trees, but I'm talking edible nuts.
Oh.
But anyway, so that's going to be a matter of, I think, having a picture of the bark and a picture of the leaf, so that
Right.
possibly the nut, if that's the case. Thinking in my head already how I'm going to lay it out. Then it's going to have reptiles, amphibians, because we have a number of different types of snakes here. We have a number of different types of frogs, toads, turtles. There was, and this might be because of the beavers, who knows, right there at the bridge that goes over Plum Run on Crawford, just before the Crawford statue, there used to be a whole bunch of turtles in the little water there, and there was one in there that was huge, and it was a giant snapper turtle. We all kind of named it Gigantor. And I have some awesome photos of that snapping turtle, because he must have been alive for decades. He was that big, with 1 or 2 of the painted turtles on top of him, so you can see the scale. I mean, it's amazing.
Where is he? Was he down in the Valley of Death, that area? Yeah. I feel like, I don't know if it was him, but there was a rather large turtle slowly crossing the road one time, and I just drove around him. But so maybe it was him. I don't know.
Yeah,
he was big.
that's not the one that you want to get out of your car and help across the road, because he will take your hand off.
There was one here though. One morning in the bus parking lot, and I came in to work for Gettysburg, and he wasn't. I don't think it was that one, but he was big. Maybe, I don't know, like this big, but big enough, and bulky. And he was just sunning himself in the lane, and I knew, because I was here early, I knew soon buses are going to start coming through, and I'm like, this little guy's going to get crushed. So I go and I pick him up, but I could tell he was a snapping turtle, and I picked him up by the side, and there was no problem. I just took him over to the woods and dropped him in there on his back just to watch him struggle.
And that's
no, I didn't do that.
Those of us who travel the park frequently have a tendency to stop for all turtles and move them across the road, because we know your typical tourist is just going to keep riding on through, and
because they're not looking.
I literally pulled over just below when you go past the parking lot at Little Round Top. I pulled over because there was a turtle in the middle of the road, and as I got out of my car, some guy in a pickup truck went flying past me and squashed the turtle. Yeah. I cannot tell you how much I wanted to chase him down and give him. Oh man, broke my heart.
Yeah. But
I'm one of those stupid people that will also get out of the car and
bring him home to make soup.
Well, no, move a snake out of the road.
Not
my
me.
husband's like, he doesn't even want to look at it.
No,
I'm like, grab a stick and prod it across the road, until it gets out.
No, not me. I'm not a big fan of snakes. Now, you say we have a couple of species or types of snakes. What do we got? I know we have the garter snake.
We have garter snakes. We have black snakes. We have copperheads.
Do we?
Yes.
Oh, we have poisonous snakes.
Yes, we have poisonous snakes. There have been 1 or 2 instances of rattlesnakes, but they're not as common as the copperheads. It's one of the things I shake my head constantly at, the people crawling within the rocks at Devil's Den,
Yeah.
because snakes love the rocks.
Oh, yeah. I don't go near them because of
And
that.
I'm like, I'm not sure that that's where I'd want to go.
That's why I don't like to go hiking too much on Little Round Top or Big Round Top. It's because, like, I'm not a fan of snakes at all.
Well, and here's a heads up, literally, snakes will climb trees and
Drop down on you.
drop down.
Sneak attack from above.
Or take a nice, comfortable branch and go to sleep. But yes, snakes do go up.
Yes. Yes,
So,
they do. So don't climb trees is the other moral of the story.
Just watch where you're walking is kind of the
What I think the park should do, though, in regards to the copperheads and the rattlesnakes, is find its natural predator and introduce it to the ecosystem here. For me, I don't care about. I don't care about how that throws the balance off.
Yeah.
It's messing with my balance to have poisonous snakes out in the woods.
Yeah,
That's my
This
problem.
is why we're inundated with starlings.
Our starlings.
Starlings are non-native.
Uh-huh.
Many people consider them an invasive species, although we're the ones who introduced them. I personally find them fascinating to watch. They have that beautiful iridescence in their feathers, and they're just funny. They're funny to watch.
Are they in this book?
Yes, they are.
Okay, keep going.
And
Are they perchers or are they tree? Which prey scavengers?
they're perchers. They're perchers.
Tree clinging or?
No, not tree clinging.
Okay, here we go. Go ahead.
There's probably a picture of one on a cannon.
I've seen the one with the cannon.
They like to nest in the cannons.
Oh, okay.
as
Okay.
do
Yep.
the-
Here
as-
we go. European starlings.
As do the
Hello,
there you go.
Clarice.
See, I told you cannon.
Yeah.
As do the bluebirds. Bluebirds love to nest in the cannons. As do snakes. Snakes like to nest in the cannons
Really,
too, so
ladies and
do
gentlemen, who
not
stick your
push-
hand down the
yes.
cannons.
Do not do that.
Now, I mean, a little finger inside just to feel the rifling is probably okay, but I would at least look first.
Inside first, yes.
Good. Now, which snake did you say likes to go in there?
They're not in there. They're not in the book.
No, I know, but
but yeah.
for my own.
Black snakes, for the most part.
Okay, but they don't kill you. They're not
No,
poisonous.
they're not poisonous, but they can give
they
you
can
a pretty
bite.
good bruise. If the bite gets infected, then you can lose your arm.
No,
so
that's
they're,
fun. That is
Um,
fun. So be careful of that, folks.
Nothing is ever totally safe
See, I like
in regards
this.
to wildlife.
I like this discussion though because you're proving me right on the flip flops thing.
Yeah.
Because I've taken a lot of joshing for that advice in the last year. So there.
Yeah.
You all stand corrected, not I. And wait, what was the latest thing? Snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like snakes, and you just reminded me of why I don't like snakes. All right. Well, so
they're
but
sneaky.
still, I'm interested to see that in the book.
Right.
The snakes and reptiles and amphibians and stuff like that.
And then of course there'll be the furry critters.
Adorable.
Foxes, rabbits,
Yeah.
deer, squirrels, chipmunks. Love the chipmunks.
Chipmunks are cute.
They are so cute.
They're cute.
And they have a. They're also one of those critters that are either they're very flighty or they just don't care.
Right.
And some of the best places to find them are the rock walls, because they love like running along the rock walls and sitting on top of them, eating their little nuts and things like that.
They play
and
king of the
just
mountain.
So cute.
Yeah, they are. They are really cute.
So cute.
And then squirrels.
Squirrels. Definitely squirrels.
We said rabbits. What else have I seen around here that's interesting? The fox is probably the most exotic thing I've seen here.
Yeah.
Right?
Two creatures that have been in the park that I have not seen, would love to get pictures of, but from a distance, are bear and bobcat.
Bear and bobcat.
Yes, there was a couple of sightings of bobcat up on Big Round Top like a year or two ago. And I was like, ooh, here, kitty, kitty. But stay there.
Yeah.
And that,
right.
is
Look
one of those
here,
things where,
stay there.
I have a tendency to sometimes come up here without Ken knowing. I'll just leave work, come on up, whatever, spend a couple hours. And I did that like right after a snow, because, ooh, snow pretty.
Mm.
But driving through the park, and I pulled off at Big Round Top, and I said, I bet you the view from atop Big Round Top is really pretty in the snow. So I went, started up the hill, and I was about a third of the way up, and I noticed these big paw prints in the snow.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, wait a minute, bears are supposed to be hibernating, but what
Right.
if? And I'm like, oh God, I hope that's not a bear, you know? And then I hear this noise, and there's something coming down the hill. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Nobody knows I'm there. I don't have my cell phone with
Oh,
me. What the hell am
no.
I going to do? And around the corner comes this guy with a big St. Bernard. I can't tell you
I'll
how
bet you-
relieved I was.
I wonder if that was my my business partner. He's got a big Saint Bernard, and he likes to go out hiking, and he loves winter, and he hates the summer
Yeah.
because he's crazy. And I wonder if that was him. I'm gonna have to. This is on Big Round Top.
Yeah, it was
And when
Big
was
Round
this?
Top. Oh gosh, it was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's still, well, yeah, no, yeah. She was. I think he's had her for about 2 years, so it could be
Yeah.
her.
But I mean, I was like, because they're big paw prints.
Yeah, they're huge.
You know, and I was like, oh my God, I hope it's not a bear. So, needless to say, now if I'm going to like go wandering off someplace random, I will let somebody know.
Yes,
And I
good
always have
idea.
my cell phone with me.
Yeah,
Not that you always get reception, but you know,
still.
still.
The name of the book, again, ladies and gentlemen, is Gettysburg, The Nature of a Battlefield. Here it is by Patricia Rich. We call her Pat, though. And if you're interested in this type of stuff, or you'd like to get interested in this type of stuff, this is a pretty good guide for you, a little handbook, what you can find out there on the battlefield in the park, in Gettysburg National Military Park. And then maybe you and a couple of friends who are also interested in this stuff could get your own copies and have your own little scavenger hunt and be like, let's go and see if we can find the Viper's bugless, but this one.
That pretty blue purple thing.
Yeah, the pretty blue purple thing. It looks like he's got hairy spikes or something.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But yeah, so maybe you could do that. Pat, thank you very much for doing this.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad we finally got to do it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, these things don't often, the idea comes and then it takes forever for the schedules to work and everything, but whatever, we did it.
Right.
And ladies and gentlemen, again, you can find this on Amazon. You go to dressinggettysburg.com and our books page, and then also through Gettysburg Publishing, among other places, but those are the ways that we recommend that you get this one here. Again, thank you, Pat, very much. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And thank you all for listening and watching. Goodbye. All right. And that is that, as they say.
That is that.
And away we go.
Okay, here we go. Oh, heavens.
See, that was nice.